Summer is nearing its end and many students across our area are gearing up for a new school year. Coming up, why you might want to wait to buy some of those back to school items. Plus, our Verified team looks at when you should get your kids back in that early morning wake up schedule. Also, we hear from an expert helping you plan ahead for the school year, making sure your child's schedule is not too full this year. Thank you for joining us for this back to school special on WCNC Plus. I'm Nick Sturdivant. Well, as many kids get ready to head back to the classroom, it might be a good idea to wait to buy some school supplies. WCNC Charlotte's Vanessa Rufus has what you need to know so you're not left asking, where's the money?
It's time to think about back to school shopping, and as parents know, those lists can be long. The days of showing up with a notebook and a number 2 pencil are long gone. The National Retail Federation says parents with kids in elementary through high school plan to spend an average of $875. But the experts say the secret to saving some money is being patient and not buying all your school supplies right now. So what can you wait to buy? Well, experts say to hold off on buying all of the school clothes. Obviously, they have to have something to wear for the first couple weeks of school, but keep in mind clothes tend to go on clearance right after Labor Day, so that could be a good time to buy the bulk of their wardrobe. The same applies to the basics like notebooks, pens, and pencils. Those tend to get deeply discounted in September, so while students will need some supplies at the start of the year, it could be better to hold off a couple weeks for the rest of them. When it comes to tech, some of the best savings are actually happening right now. U.S. News says back to school shopping season is one of the best times to buy a new computer. That's because stores often offer discounts on computers and they want to lure shoppers in. Other items like headphones are better to buy later, not just for the discounts, but also so you just don't waste money on the wrong item. Teachers can have rules about what headphones are allowed in their classrooms, so find those out before shelling out any money. I'm Vanessa Rufus. Now back to you.
One big item on that back to school shopping list, a backpack. No matter what grade your child is going to, what they're carrying on their back matters. Sarah Sanchez looks into all the important details from front to back.
Size, weight, fit, it's all important when it comes to backpacks and sending students off to school. Whether they're 8 or 18, a growing spine is vulnerable to back injury, says Dr. Jessica Taglerini, the president of the Connecticut Chiropractic Council.
Let's talk about the proper backpack sizing for each child, because it's going to be different.
It is, depending on the child's height and their torso length. You don't want the bottom of the backpack to fall more than 3 to 4 inches below the natural waistline. Now, if it does, you can just tighten the straps. If when you tighten the straps it's still too long, then that's too big of a backpack for your child. Don't order something online. Actually go to the store and make sure it fits your child properly.
Dr. Taglerini says it's important kids use both backpack straps, not just the one strap look.
Kind of looks cooler, but it's not cool because that's really straining your back on one side and can lead to lots of chronic back issues, including scoliosis.
Scoliosis can worsen over time, leading to back pain in adulthood if left untreated.
According to the International Chiropractic Pediatric Association, they suggest that a backpack's contents and the pack altogether not weigh more than 10 to 15% of your body weight, which is not very much if you think about it.
Dr. Taglerini says the heaviest thing in a student's backpack is often a laptop, and even elementary school students are responsible for bringing one back and forth from home to school.
So what I suggest is have a laptop case like this and hold it under your arm rather than put it in your backpack and have one more heavy thing in there. Have your child go through their folders and get rid of things they don't need. I remember one year my child in May had things from September in his folders still.
Something else she says is important, how you pick up a heavy bag.
You need to bend at the knees and not the back and lift with your legs.
You should also pay attention to signs your child's backpack is too heavy or the wrong fit. Dr. Taglerini sees the signs at her clinic when treating young patients.
Upper back and shoulder discomfort, lower back even sometimes. And I'm seeing kids' posture is really affected because they're trying to compensate for their backpacks being so heavy, they end up with a forward head posture. And that combined with looking down at devices all the time is not a good combination.
As students and parents prepare for the start of the school year, you might be wondering if you should start getting your kids back in that early morning wake-up schedule now. WCNC Charlotte's Megan Bragg verifies.
Summertime is not only a great time for kids to sleep in, but also parents if they can. Even though it's nice to catch up on those extra Z's, is it better to get your kids back into the school wake-up schedule before school starts? Let's verify. Our source is the American Academy of Sleep Medicine, Dr. Brian Chen, sleep specialist for the Cleveland Clinic, and Dr. John White, chief medical officer for WebMD. Soon those alarm clocks will be ringing for school children. And Dr. Chen says the sooner you turn them back earlier, the easier the transition.
So it's important to start that transition early so that there's not a big jump whenever you get back to going to school, and there's not going to be that whiplash where you're kind of real tired.
Dr. White agrees and suggests kids go to bed 15 minutes earlier every day or every other day to make the adjustment.
Wake up time, shifting that 15 minutes earlier as well, every couple of days. And that includes on the weekends.
The American Academy of Sleep Medicine says preschoolers require 10 to 13 hours of sleep. Kids ages 6 to 12 require 9 to 12 hours of sleep, and teens require 8 to 10 hours of sleep. Dr. White says if you don't gradually adjust the kids' wake-up schedule, that first day of school will be a shock to their system.
Kids aren't going to be able to wake up on time. You're going to be rushed and hectic in the morning, and nobody wants that. And then they may have trouble concentrating that first week or two in class.
So we can verify that, yes, it is better to get your kids back into the school wake-up schedule before school starts. That way they are set up for success in getting adequate sleep when it counts. With your Verify, I'm Megan Bragg.
The return to school can bring with it anxiety for students. So we talked to some students and spoke with a doctor about ways to ease your kids' fears and worries.
I'm excited to go back to school.
What are you most excited about?
Recess and making new friends. No, I don't like school.
Why don't you like school?
It's just boring. I like all my teachers about school.
There's nothing like starting a new school year. Of course, kids get excited about who's in their class, who their teacher is, maybe those new supplies. But many kids also feel anxious.
I don't like tests and stuff. I like to be prepared for tests.
What makes you nervous about it?
Tests and stuff.
What makes you nervous about school starting?
The test. And I'm usually good at math, but I'm kind of scared for second grade math.
A survey done by the On Our Sleeves movement for children's mental health found that 71% of parents say something made the previous school year challenging for their kids. The top few reasons: safety concerns, academic challenges, and bullying. But how do you get your kids to open up and tell you what's happening or what they're worried about? We talked to Associate Clinical Director Dr. Whitney Ragland-Bignall.
So having conversations about what they're feeling, what they're expecting, what they might be nervous or worried about, and also if last year didn't go so well, talking about what maybe made it not go so well and making them, we can talk and then come up with solutions together. But the key is starting to talk about it.
She says the key is to ask the questions in a way that will get better answers.
So if we just ask, how was school today? I find that we do just get like those fines, good. What we want to do is ask them a more specific question where they might have to give more detail. So something like, what was your favorite part of the day? Or tell me about something that was hard and you got through it. So the goal is to ask them a question where you can't just give it one answer.
For many kids, the biggest stress comes from academic work, especially if they're feeling as if they aren't catching on as fast as their peers.
So obviously we know with the pandemic, kids got kind of behind, and so they're struggling a little bit more, and so that can be stressful, especially around testing and those expectations.
If your child is showing signs of anxiety when it's test time or when the homework piles up, Dr. Bignall says it's important to not only talk to them about it, but also involve the teachers. Warn their teacher that these feelings are present and see if the three of you can come up with a plan. If your child's anxiety comes from social situations, they aren't alone.
Sometimes, especially now, kids have had difficulty figuring out how to make connections, how to make good ones. And so having them make friends, especially if they're more nervous or shy. How do you do that? And so thinking about how to get them those skills and those opportunities to practice making new friends can be really, really important.
So, while you're getting the school supplies in order and trying to fit in some last-minute summer activities, keep in mind, kids need to get back into their best school year habits.
And getting everyone into a routine. We want a routine and habits, and so the worst would be to start that off the day before. We want to work into it, especially things such as getting kids back ready for sleep and getting things organized. So the sooner they can do it, the better. And so that would be my recommendation.
So let's dive a bit deeper into mental health here. Sometimes we feel like we need to take a day to focus on our mental health and reset our lives. Child and adolescent psychologist Dr. Lisa Ramirez speaks with Maureen Kyle about what you should be doing on those mental health days.
Often what will happen is that when you're not feeling great, your body will say, we just kind of need to chill. We need to take a rest. Like, let's lay in bed all day. Let's scroll, right? We're resting. We'll feel better if we do this. But actually, that's not a great way to use that mental health day because that doesn't refill anything. It's almost like if you take a cell phone charger and just unplug it.
Yeah.
You know, you actually need to do things that are going to help you feel a little bit more, you know, that you've worked towards something. So that could be on a nice day, taking a walk, you know, getting outside. Taking a walk is much better than laying in bed, scrolling, watching TV, because then what happens is you have like 18 hours of kind of not quite sleeping, not quite awake.
Right.
And it's not really quality, you know? So you have this whole quantity of what feels restful, but it's actually not, and it does the opposite, because if you've done that for a full day, your kid's gonna wake up the next morning and feel the exact same way.
Yeah.
But if they've gotten up, gotten dressed, taken a shower, gone for a walk, maybe tackled that assignment that is really stressing them out, or spent time with somebody like maybe a friend, a grandparent, you know, there are a lot of reasons that kids can feel either stressed out or down or sad or worried. And, you know, we have to make sure that on those mental health days, we're using them in ways that are going to actually counteract that, not just pause it.
From homework to after-school activities and sports, kids have a lot to do after that final school bell rings. Parenting educator Laura Lynn Knight shares the conversation you should have as a family to make sure nothing gets forgotten.
I really suggest for families that they sit down with their children or their child and you say, okay, this is our schedule. We have homework, we have these after school activities, you know, I know you're at school. Let's come up with a game plan. Let's find a solution for how homework is going to fit best in our family and feel best for you. Now, some children might say, I want to do it on the bus on the way home, or I want to do it the second I walk in the door. And if your child wants to do that and that works well for your family, that's wonderful. You know, use that method. But what I find is most children say, I want a bit of a break. And yes, I will do, you know, X, Y, and Z in my homework. Maybe it's my math homework, or maybe I can do my 20 minutes of reading on the way to sports. But really, I need a snack and I want to have just a little bit of playtime with you as my parent. And then, or just I want to hang out with you as my parent if they're older. And then, yes, let's go do our activity, or let's do homework as soon as we get home before we have dinner. And there's no easy way because we can't add time to the day. I wish we could. We could just kind of extend it and give those extra hours. And the last thing I'll say about after school activities is if you find your child can't get their homework done and they're melting down and it's a struggle, then it's a time to reevaluate how many after school activities you're doing, because sometimes we just can't do it all.
Back to school can be a stressful time for the entire family, and that means forgetting about your child's lunch until the very last minute. Pediatric dietitian Jen Highland has some tips for you to get ahead this school year.
First of all, if you can pack the night before, always a good tip. But fast and easy, it does not need to be complicated. So you might see, especially parents a lot on social media now, on Instagram, there's all these like picture perfect lunch boxes, and that's great, but it doesn't have to be complicated. So my biggest thing for parents to think about is let's have all the food groups. So do we have a protein? Do we have a whole grain food, a fruit, a veggie, a dairy, some fun foods, things like that. So it can be as simple as right here, we have a good old classic peanut butter and jelly sandwich. So I love there's nothing wrong with a PB&J. Right. Now kids might get sick of it, but a PB&J, throw in some carrots, some hummus, an apple, a cheese stick for some extra protein, nothing wrong with that, okay? That's perfect. But if you want to do even, quicker plan ahead things, I'm a really big fan of like pasta salads or mixed dishes. So a pasta salad that doesn't need to be heated up is great. So you can cook some noodles, some whole grain noodles, even trying something different like high protein, some bean-based noodles to give the kids a little extra protein boost throughout the day. You can throw in, here I did some cheese, some bell peppers, tomatoes. There's a chicken sausage in there that you just microwave for 30 seconds, that's it. So you boil the noodles, you throw in the 30-second chicken sausage, whatever veggies the kids want, they can choose. And then you have that for the week. So it's in the fridge, dish it out and go. You can do the same thing with like a Mexican-based style, a salad of some sort. So make ahead's really great.
And you can find our full back-to-school coverage on WCNC.com and inside the WCNC Charlotte mobile app. Thank you for joining us for this back-to-school special on WCNC Plus. I'm Nick Sturdivant.